Hi everyone, and thank you all so much for joining us today for a special American Cruise Lines webinar. My name is Danielle, and I am the Trade Relations Specialist here at CLIA. A few housekeeping tips before we begin. This webinar will be recorded and it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel at CLIA Global. You can access the recording right after this webinar to rewatch it, or if you want to just go back and see anything, it will be there for your viewing. We will also be doing a Q&A portion following the presentation. Please type all questions in the questions module that can be found on the sidebar of the GoToWebinar platform. Again, we will get to those at the end. Thank you so much to Caitlin D., who is our presenter today. Caitlin O.D. is the Business Development Coordinator with American Cruise Lines. She is responsible for teaching agents about the American Cruise Line product and helps you to build your business with ACL. Caitlin has been with the company for 3 years and originally started on the sales team as a cruise specialist. She is located in Connecticut at the American Cruise Lines headquarters, where she lives with her husband and her cat. Thank you, Caitlin, so much for joining us today. Whenever you are ready, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Danielle. And thank you again for everybody joining us today. I know you do have quite a bit going on, a lot on your plates, so I can't tell you enough how much we appreciate you taking time to learn about American Cruise Lines and the Alaskan and Puget Sound itineraries. So I'd love to get started here today. So we do have over 35 itineraries across the United States. I believe we're visiting a total of around 28 states. So there really is something for everyone, not just these itineraries we're focusing on today, as you can see with the map on the screen. Our small ships give us access to exclusive waterways, which is really important to remember with these itineraries specifically. Because even though there are other cruise lines that do visit, say, Alaska, we are able to get uncommon access because of the size of our ships. So we're really simply offering a completely different experience that's really up close and personal to these destinations. So guests choosing to explore the wilderness of Alaska and the Puget Sound will experience small ship cruising done perfectly. Before we kind of go into some of the itineraries, I just kind of want to walk you through some of our guided shore excursion kind of policies. All of our shore excursions are guided small groups, so they're not hop-on, hop-off tours. They are guided. We do have featured complimentary tours on board available to all guests. Those are included in the price of the cruise and can be reserved on board. Premium tours as well are typically $20 to $70 per person, and they also can be booked on board. Important to remember, we get a lot of questions whether or not we can book those excursions prior to the date of sale, and it's always a good idea to remember these are small ships. You know, I'll kind of go over the ships after I go over the itineraries, but there's no passenger count in this region higher than 175 people. So we don't run out of space for those featured or premium excursions. Signature excursions are a little bit different. They'll be a little bit smaller. For these itineraries, it's things like a kayaking tour or a whale watching tour, where we don't have a lot of control over how many, spaces are available. My strongest recommendation to you is you want to get those excursions on your booking prior to final payment. You don't actually have to pay for them until final payment, and it does take them out of inventory. So even if your clients are just kind of considering them, I just always like to remind my agents it's not a bad idea to take that out of inventory and put it on the booking in order to make sure they do have that option. So a little bit more detail about the premium and featured tours. The featured tours are going to be included at each port of call on the Alaskan itineraries. That's not the case with the Puget Sound. Premium excursions are going to be able at each port of call, and some featured excursions will be available as well. The reason we don't include an excursion at each port of call for the Puget Sound itineraries is because there's so much to do in each of these really quaint harbor towns and small ports of call. So the premium tours are really kind of supplemental to those experiences where we find our clients are generally choosing to self-guide in these ports and kind of shop and get to know these little areas. So that's something to keep in mind. I am going to go through some of the most popular itineraries in these regions. I'm not going to be listing every excursion for them. I can't express enough. The day-by-day breakdown on the website is going to be the most comprehensive information that we have with regards to the tours. So if you want a little bit more detail about which shore excursions are available for these itineraries, just go hop on the website, click on the cruise under the drop-down menu and click on the day-by-day tab, and you'll get all the information you need right there. So I'm going to start with the beautiful Alaskan itineraries. We do have 3 cruises available in the Alaskan region. The 7-night Southeast Alaska is really our most popular. That one's a round trip out of Juneau. We also offer a 10-night round trip out of Juneau, the Alaskan Explorer cruise, which will extend a little bit further south. And we have a 14-night cruise from Seattle to Juneau, or the reverse. That's a one-way. That's the Alaskan Inside Passage cruise. It's important to note that, you can kind of see on the map we're going past British Columbia, but we can only sail in U.S. waters and dock at U.S. ports, so we won't be stopping at British Columbia for those excursions or for those ports of call. But as you'll see, we do have some opportunities to enter British Columbia to explore that region if your clients choose to do so. So for departures out of Juneau, we offer a complimentary pre-night package. This package includes a one-night hotel stay at a centrally located premium hotel in Juneau. It does vary, so I can't, kind of give you an idea as to which one it will be, but it will be a centrally located premium hotel. So your clients have the option to take advantage of a complimentary guided tour at 9 a.m. on the day of embarkation, and that includes a transfer to the ship. So they don't need to worry about their luggage if they're going to take that tour. We would take care of that. They would get to the ship the morning of embarkation and find their luggage in their stateroom. I'll go into a little bit more detail about that tour shortly. So I am going to cover the Southeast Alaska cruise, and this is going to give you a feel for what we offer in Alaska. These are going to be the most consistent ports of call. And again, this is really our most popular cruise in this region. It's the one we also do the most often. So as I mentioned earlier, we do have a featured shore excursion in Juneau that starts at 9 a.m. on the day of departure. Guests will experience a guided tour through the city and learn about the history of Juneau's Gold Rush era, and stop at Mendenhall Glacier, which you see kind of in the middle of the screen there in the distance. Mendenhall Glacier is 12 miles long with ice, and it's about 1,000 feet deep. The tour concludes with a stop at Mendenhall Glacier's Visitor Center, where guests will then return to the ship for embarkation and will take off for Skagway. Skagway has been known as the gateway to the Yukon since the Klondike Gold Rush of 1897. So we currently have a few shore excursions offered here. And one featured excursion is the Yukon Gateway Journey, which is what you're seeing here. This is a rail and highway tour that takes guests on a unique ride on the White Pass and Yukon Route narrow gauge railroad into British Columbia, and features a short guided tour of Skagway and includes a bus tour over the scenic Klondike Highway. So this tour does go to Canada. Passengers will need to bring a passport on board in order to take this tour, but some of our passengers cruise with us specifically because they don't need a passport to get on board. If that's the case, they can take part in the Skagway Shuttle Tour, which will give our clients time to explore Skagway's National Historical District. So there's always going to be another option. If there is one excursion that does require a passport, we'll always have another option for passports or passengers who don't have one. The next day, we'll move on to Haines, which is the adventure capital of Alaska. We do offer 2 featured shore excursions here. The first is the Nature and Wildlife Expedition, the Valley of the Eagles Nature Tour. Nestled between rugged glaciers and snow-capped mountains, the Chilkoot Valley provides an abundance of potential wildlife highlights, including brown and black bears, bald eagles, mountain goats, river otters, whales, seals, sea lions, and much more. We also have the Haines Historical Walking Tour. A local guide who lives in Haines year-round will be there to offer an insider's look at this small Alaskan town. Your clients will walk through the first permanent Army base in Alaska and learn about the rich history of the town and visit the famous Hammer Museum. Glacier Bay is known for its magnificent glaciers, towering snow-capped mountains, and abundant wildlife, with miles of pristine coastlines. It's really the highlight of any cruise to Alaska, but American Cruise Line's guests experience a full day cruising this amazing landscape without having to leave the ship. We're one of the non-excursion companies with vessel exclusivity in Glacier Bay. So a National Park Service ranger will board the American Constellation for the day and provide a comprehensive interpretive program as we cruise the national park. In addition, American Cruise Lines has made special arrangements to have a Tlingit cultural interpreter join us on board to share the fascinating human history of Glacier Bay's indigenous people. An amazing perk of being on board the ship is that your clients can choose to spend a portion of this day taking in the breathtaking landscape from the comfort of their own private balconies, which are available on board the Constellation. The next day will find us in Cake, which is rich in tribal history and has been inhabited by the Tlingit peoples for thousands of years. On a 2.5-hour guided bus tour, we'll make a stop at the hatchery, which is known for its great views of Alaskan bears and a live salmon stream. The guide also takes guests to the carving shed, where local history and lore is shared. On the way back to the ship, we'll also make a stop at the world's largest totem pole. Petersburg of Alaska is a thriving fishing community with a really strong Norwegian heritage. Guests can choose to participate in a featured walking tour of the charming downtown before visiting the Clausen Museum, whose collections of artifacts, photographs, and archives span the history and prehistory of Petersburg and the surrounding areas. We also offer a signature tour, which is a half-day fishing charter tour. And the charter is a short distance from the cruise ship, allowing maximum fishing time. And this is important to book in advance because each vessel has a maximum of 6 guests and all equipment will be provided. If your client does reel something in, we'll put it on ice for them and ship it home. So they're not going to have to worry about rooming with the fish for the rest of their cruise. So we take care of that. Hopefully they have good luck fishing if you do book a client on that cruise. The last day of the cruise, we navigate under Tracy Arm's sheer 1,500-foot high vertical cliffs. Our expert naturalist will come on board to provide narration as we cruise through this mighty fjord. Guests will witness hundreds of waterfalls cascading down the sides of cliffs and hear all about their creation as well as the wildlife in the area. This is also the day where we have our full-service hot chocolate bar on the sun deck. So this is the invention of one of our hotel managers who thought it would be a great idea to have a nice warm treat while we're cruising through this beautiful region. So we offer many different and delicious hot chocolate options. So this will conclude our Southeast Alaska itinerary. We'll head back to Juneau where our guests will disembark the following morning. So moving on to the Puget Sound and San Juan Islands itineraries. We offer just 2 of those itineraries, a 7-night and a 10-night, and they're both a round trip out of Seattle. And I would say the 7-night is our most popular. Similarly, it's the ideal length for most passengers. The 10-night Grand Puget Sound, similar to the Alaskan cruise, travels a little bit further south, giving your clients a little bit more of an in-depth view and experience with the region. And for the purposes of today's presentation, I'll go through the 7-day itineraries. Differing a little bit from the Alaska regions, we do the Puget Sound 7-day much more frequently. And I'll kind of go into that when I discuss the ships that cruise in this region. Okay, so for Puget Sound cruises and Alaskan departures out of Juneau, we don't have an included pre-night package, but guests can purchase a premium pre-cruise package. And this will include 1-night hotel stay at a centrally located hotel in Seattle, breakfast the morning of the embarkation, and a narrated tour of Seattle, visiting such highlights as Pike Place Market, Elliott Bay, and much more. The tour will conclude at the ship where they'll find their luggage in their stateroom, ensuring a seamless boarding process. So diving into our 7-night Puget Sound and San Juan Islands cruise, you'll find similar natural beauty to our Alaskan itineraries, along with unique ports of call that your clients really are going to love. Our first port of call is going to be Anacortes, which is located between Seattle and Vancouver on the beautiful Fidalgo Island. This town is known as the gateway to the San Juans. Anacortes is also home to Deception Pass, which is one of the most photographed places in the Northwest, and you do see it here. Guests can see the pass from the water or explore on easy walking trails along the shoreline. There's also plenty of time to visit the town, just a few steps from our dock. We do offer a complimentary shore excursion here called the Anacortes Experience. This is a walking tour where your clients will see colorful murals depicting the history and the city, history of the city and the town center, just to name a few. Additional tour options here are both premium, which is, as a reminder, means guests need to pay for those on board. One option is the Deception Pass jet boat tour. So on a comfortable jet boat, guests will enjoy 360 degrees of unobstructed views of Deception Pass Bridge, which is a National Historic Landmark. Passengers on this tour will enjoy hearing the tales of characters who navigated these waters, in addition to seeing the old prison rock quarry, Deception Island, and probably a bald eagle's nest or two. The next port of call is going to be Friday Harbor on San Juan Island, which is a quaint, tranquil, and charming walkable seaport. The island has diverse topography with pebbled beaches, large mountains, and lush valleys, and the town has small, friendly stores and restaurants. Here, your clients can take a premium tour to the Whale Museum, where they'll learn about the natural history of these amazing marine mammals, with a special focus on the orcas that live in the waters of the San Juan Islands. Just a fun fact, the crew of the American Spirit, one of the ships that cruises in this region, adopted an orca from the L Pod and named it Spirit through the orca adoption program supported by the Whale Museum here. We also offer a whale watching tour, which is a signature tour, meaning it must be pre-booked. For anyone who's not done a whale watching tour before, this is really a must-do. It's a wonderful excursion to partake in. The San Juan Islands are considered to be one of the best places in the world to view orca whales, and this 3.5-hour tour takes guests right into their natural habitat so they can get up close and personal. Up next, we'll cruise to Port Angeles. So from here, guests really do have many options for shore tours, including a trip to Canada. And so same thing here as the Skagway tours, where guests on board don't need a passport, but if they did want to take the Butchart Gardens or Victoria City tour, they would need one. If they decide to stay in Port Angeles, they can take a walking tour of Port Angeles, which is a very charming town filled with much history. Its strategic location made it a center for trade for both indigenous peoples and for the Europeans who came after. We've also have a couple options that include the Olympic National Park, and the park really does have some of the largest remnants of the ancient forest left in the country with unique flora and fauna, so really a unique experience. And our signature excursion in this port is the Butchart Gardens in Victoria City tour. And of course, that does need to be pre-booked. Guests take a scenic ferry ride across the Strait of San Juan to beautiful Victoria, British Columbia. And there they take a bus tour of the city before heading to Butchart Gardens. And the entire park is gorgeous with flowers, adorned archways, stone paths, gentle streams, and a colorful array of flowers. I've included a picture of some fall foliage here, kind of picking up on the tones of the season. So from Port Angeles, we'll head to Port Townsend, which is also on the Olympic Peninsula. The city is called the City of Dreams because of the early speculation that the city would be the largest harbor on the west coast of the U.S., but that changed with the railroad, and then, as soon as the railroad started to dominate as a form of transportation of people and goods, so it turned into sort of a quieter, more peaceful town. In Port Townsend, guests have a few premium excursions to choose from, one being the historic Port Townsend exploration, where a guide in Victoria-era dress greets the guests at the ship and takes them through the historic area downtown. The guides will go into detail about the many colorful characters that helped build the city. Another tour option is the Fort Worden State Park, which is actually what you're looking at here. And that is on the northwestern side of what's considered the Triangle of Fire, which is a trio of forts built to protect the Puget Sound at the turn of the last century. And highlights include the Point Wilson Lighthouse, which is built to help friendly warships navigate home, and the parade grounds where military drills and training were once held. On to Poulsbo, Washington next, which is known as Little Norway, and it was settled in 1892 by Norwegian loggers and fishermen. There are two premium tours in Poulsbo. The first option is the walking tour, where an expert guide from Poulsbo Historical Society greets passengers at the dock and takes them through the historic downtown area. The second option is the Suquamish Museum, which opened in 2012 and features the story of the Suquamish Museum, the most well-known being Chief Seattle, who is the leader of the Suquamish and the Duwamish people. The highlight of the museum is a uniquely designed cedar timeline depicting the tribe's history from the beginning of the last ice age to current times. Really some striking art to see at that location. Midday, we'll depart for Seattle, where we'll spend the remainder of the day. Guests do have an option to take part in the premium guided tour of the city if they didn't take that tour to start their cruise. Of course, the highlight being Pike Place Market. And that evening will be docked in Seattle and guests will disembark the following day. So I just kind of want to walk you through some of the amenities available on all of our American Cruise Lines cruises, as well as the ships that cruise this itinerary. So we have two small ship coastal cruisers. These are the class of ship that cruises on the coastal waters. So just for a little background here, these ships will cruise kind of close to the coast, sort of a benefit of cruising with us that you're always able to see land. So not only do we have these small ship coastal cruisers here on the Pacific Northwest, but we also have them on the East Coast all throughout the year. The American Spirit on the left is a 100 passenger ship built in 2005, and the American Constellation is a 175 passenger ship built in 2017. The Spirit remains in the Puget Sound from spring to fall, doing only the 7-night itinerary, while the Constellation starts the spring season in the Puget Sound, then travels to Alaska in June and returns to the Puget Sound in September, doing the 10-night cruises and the 14-night cruises, as well as a few of the 7-night cruises to begin and end the season. So these ships were built in our shipyard in Chesapeake, Maryland, and they both have elevators midship, which is really important to remember. We do have a clientele of semi-retired to retired audience, a more mature audience. So these ships are built with that clientele in mind. So it's very easy to maneuver around the ships. There's no stairs, a really relaxing journey on board. I'd also say it's very important to that particular clientele that the ships were built in the US. Something I always just like to mention, there are sometimes some price objections. And I would say the strongest kind of argument against those objections is that we are an American company operating entirely out of the US. Here in Connecticut at our corporate headquarters, we have a call center in Utah, and of course, we're building our ships in Chesapeake, Maryland. So it's a really great distinction. So we do have gorgeous, spacious staterooms with hotel-size bathrooms. They're averaging around 300 square feet. All of our staterooms have interior entrances with an exterior view. So even if a stateroom doesn't have a balcony, it'll still have a gorgeous large picture window. Staterooms with balconies are private, so there's nobody milling around in front of their view. As you can kind of see, that is a private balcony. There's no room for anybody to walk around. If you have folks who are traveling in a group, we can always take that balcony down so they can kind of share that space. But unless they elect to have that balcony taken down, they will have that private balcony. Again, all of our staterooms do have hotel-sized bathrooms. They have complimentary Wi-Fi and twice daily room service. Important to note, gratuity is included in the price of the cruise. So you are not expected to tip our staff aboard. Gratuity is included in the price of the cruise. So this is an image of one of the staterooms on board the American Constellation. So after your clients are done enjoying each port of call, they'll embark once again and enjoy our complimentary cocktail party every evening. With that cocktail party, beer, wine, top shelf cocktails, and champagne are all included in the price of the cruise. And that party typically starts at about 5:30 p.m., which brings me to my next point. As your passengers are kind of enjoying that cocktail party, getting to know folks on board, they're invited to join us for our open-seated dining time at their leisure. So we really only have the one dining time. It starts at cocktail hour, so somebody's super voracious, they can certainly leave and sit down for dinner. I just did want to quickly note, we do have locally sourced hors d'oeuvres during the cocktail party, but if folks are ready for dinner, they're welcome to join us. There's no assigned seats on board either, so you can kind of sit with whomever you want. We're really trying to foster kind of a camaraderie on board, so we really find that people really enjoy the opportunity to meet other like-minded travelers, both in the cocktail hour and in the open-seated dining time. Something I did neglect to mention, we do have single designated staterooms in all of our ships. So for those singles, this is exceptionally, important to have nobody who's kind of like seated along just with the two of them. Say if there's a couple traveling, everybody's kind of mingling and getting to know each other. So those singles will be super comfortable on board, both in that cocktail hour and for those open seated dining times. All the dining and beverage amenities I'm mentioning today are available on all of our sailings and all of our ships. So there's no confusing packages to add on to your client sailing. Our meals are regionally sourced and inspired. So for these regions, I included a beautiful picture of some delicious salmon. It's going to be a lot of delicious seafood on board. So we're really looking to give your clients a nice taste of the region. Beer and wine is included at lunch and dinner. For all of our cruises, again, regardless of which ship you're on, that is going to be consistent. And again, really fresh food. These are not a buffet. So if your clients have any dietary restrictions, say I'm looking at this right now and we have somebody who's say allergic to asparagus, you can certainly indicate that in your client's booking. So my best recommendation to you is just let your cruise specialist know, whomever is booking you, hey, my client's allergic to onions, they're vegan, gluten-free. It's very easy for us to accommodate that as we're sourcing these ingredients each port of call. We are really seeking to give them kind of an immersive experience, and the meals are part of that. But one of the benefits for that is that the menu is a little bit more flexible. We're really able to accommodate any dietary restrictions that your clients might need. So again, beer and wine included at lunch and dinner, locally sourced fresh cuisine, not it's ordered off of a menu. It's not a buffet, so we can make any dietary restrictions known to the ship. We actually can give your clients an opportunity to meet with the chef as well. If you really have a nervous client, they've had a bad experience, say on another cruise line, and really want to be sure that they're not going to be served something they're allergic to, it's very easy for us to kind of assuage any fears. So we bring acclaimed local entertainment on board each night, which really helps bring the destinations to life even more. In this region, it might be the Anacords, which is a local music group who sing wonderful harmonies in a cappella style. And these gentlemen have been singing together for over 50 years. Another night, we have the Fidalgo Swing, a 4-person band that aims to transport guests to an era when swing was king. And we do also have award-winning onboard Enrichment, where an educator, historian, lecturer, or guide will focus on the natural history of the area, current events, and settlement history. I can't tell you enough how popular this aspect of our cruise is. A lot of times this guest lecturer will actually join us on board, as well as join us for the excursions to kind of add an additional voice for some of those tours. So it's really an exceptional component of cruising, especially in this region where there's so much to learn about the local flora and fauna. So I can't tell you enough how much folks enjoy that aspect of the cruise. So got done quicker than I thought I would. I'd be happy to take any questions that you have. But before I do, please do log on to the travel agent portal. If you haven't gotten your login, you can always email me at agents@American Cruise Lines, or you can give your cruise specialist a call at the number at the bottom right. They'd be happy to assist you with anything that you need. That's really my recommendation going forward. If you do have any questions, you want to learn about, say, discounts or promotions in this region, it's best to get to know a cruise specialist. They can kind of connect with you and keep you abreast of all of those promotions that are happening. You can also see them on the travel agent portal. Okay.
Thanks so much, Caitlin. We do have a couple of questions. Again, for everybody on the line, if you have any questions, you can find the questions module on the sidebar of the GoToWebinar module. So our first question is from Natasha, and she is wondering, is the San Juan cruise a round trip or one way?
It's a round trip out of Seattle. They both are. There's 2 different itineraries, a 7-night and a 10-night, and they're both a round trip out of Seattle.
Perfect, thank you. The next question is from Tara, and she is wondering, are the ships ADA accessible?
So they're not ADA certified, but we do build them to, kind of the specifications to accommodate a more mature audience. So by this, I mean, say you have a passenger who isn't a walker. The staterooms are all equipped with bars in the bathroom. We can add a shower bench or raised toilet seat. So there's a lot of accommodations we can make. Same thing with the tours, we can add a lift to the bus. So my strongest recommendation, if you do have a client who has some mobility concerns, I strongly recommend you just mention it, just kind of walk us through whatever concerns you have with your cruise specialist, because they'll be able to put that on your client's folio, and that will go with them throughout any cruise they take with American Cruise Lines. So we'll always kind of be taking that into consideration, whatever accommodations they need.
Perfect, thank you. Tara also has a follow-up question. Is there transportation post-cruise or just pre-cruise provided?
So there is not, actually it's the reverse. There's no pre-cruise transportation provided. So you need to get your clients from the airport to the pre-cruise hotel stay or to the dock. At the end of the cruise, we do include a transfer from the dock to the airport. And we disembark quite early. We disembark at 8:30 a.m. at the very latest. So most of our passengers are choosing to go home that day. We're really getting you off the ship in plenty of time to get you home.
Got it, thank you. I'll give a couple more minutes for any questions. It looks like that was the last one that came in. Just a reminder, the webinar will be recorded, and you can access the recording on our YouTube channel, which is at CLIA Global. Okay, well, thank you so much, Caitlin, for your time today and this great presentation. And thank you so much to everybody on the line for joining us.
Thank you so much, Danielle. Thank you so much to everybody else as well.
Thanks, everyone. Hope you all have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.